Yes, so let me begin off. I believe you all know me. I'm a lecturer of biochemistry in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry. And this presentation is on career options after biochemistry and molecular biology degree, which majority of you or all of you really, it's what you are about to be awarded from University of Eldoret in March. So this talk is just to really advise you or guide you on the career options that you have, having been awarded or when you are awarded with this BSc in biochemistry degree. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate all of you, the students who made it to be in the graduation list of BSc in biochemistry award that will be awarded, or we have the graduation in March of this year. So you have really had a good foundation already for you to pursue careers in biochemistry and even molecular biology because of the coursework you've done, the practicals you undertook, and even the attachments that were under this program at University of Eldoret. So that was a challenge, and it's really good when you finish well and you get the degree at the end of this 4-year program. So, as you know, biochemistry and molecular biology really focuses on processes happening at molecular level. That's what you've learned all through the 4-year program. And you also know that it therefore cuts across many disciplines, including genetics, microbiology, forensic, plant and animal science, biotechnology, immunology, and even medicine, and many others. So it's a field that really cuts across many other areas, and therefore it's very relevant, as you can see. So when you will be awarded the degree in BSc in biochemistry, this will give you a clear option or a clear path for you to begin your career options. And this is really into two. So I know most of you might be looking at being employed immediately, and there are those who probably would wish to continue their studies, maybe into Master of Science or PhD or other programs or other trainings after this bachelor's degree. So let me start off with the career options that are open to you if you're looking at the track of getting employed immediately when you get your certificates. So the first employer, big group of employer, is the government and also other non-governmental agencies. And here I want to highlight on the institutions or organizations that mainly focus on research, where they, or if it's not research, they do a lot of analysis on aspects on touching on food, drug, air, wastes, animal tissue, and many other things. So there are various organizations, and I believe some of you are already attached to some of them, and maybe you know a better scope of what they do. But the first potential employer is several hospitals, and hospitals that undertake sometimes research, but most of the time they do a lot of diagnostic analysis, which have a lot of angle to biochemistry and molecular biology. So there are many public and private hospitals, and you can look onto these hospitals to see if you can be employed mainly in the laboratories of the hospitals. Then there is the bigger group, which are research institutions, and mainly these are the ones in the country. And I've listed them there. We have KEMRI Wellcome Trust, we have Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization, Institute of Primate Research, the Biosciences Hub at ILRI, ISIPE, Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, Kenya Forestry and Kenya Forest Research Institute, among others. So for these institutions, they are mainly research focused, and they at times require scientists who have even a basic BSc in biochemistry degree for the research undertakings in these institutions, because there'll always be a biochemical or a molecular angle in the research that is being undertaken. Then there is the regulatory agencies. Most of them are government, the National Biosafety Authority, the Kenya Environmental and Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEBS, NEMA, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. So these organizations sometimes require scientists to just perform duties of regulatory aspects, but most of them have laboratories. So, and you can see their regulatory nature. So they will always be doing several assessments of most of the time, it's issues touching on biological products and many other things. So those are the organizations under that. The second big employer will be universities, and this can be private and also public. And with a BSc, you can just join in as technicians, or you can join in as research assistants and even graduate assistants. And a good example are the graduate assistants in our department. We have 4 of them, and all of them are actually the best students in their graduating class in their respective years. So they've been taken in. We have Sharon, we have Kennedy, we have Jacqueline, we have Alex, and I believe you know them. So they're already building a path mainly for academic professions like being a lecturer, because if they undertake the master's, the PhD, then they can get to be lecturers. The other group of organization will be government or even private forensic laboratories. And I believe you did forensic biochemistry, you know the scope, and this is very critical. And sometimes they really require the biochemists to understand better, or molecular biologists, so that they can be analysts in the forensic labs. There's a big forensic lab coming up. I think it was to be opened either this week or so in the Kenya Police or under DCI. And that's a good thing to look at. We have the government chemists. They also do forensics sometimes. The Kenya WS, that's Kenya Wildlife Service. I think they have laboratories too, and many other private labs. So these are potential employers. The other arm, which is really coming up, is biotechnology farms or industry. And these industries also undertake a lot of research. There's a lot of quality control analysis. And of course, there's a lot of production. So these companies really require, they have to have a core of biochemistry and molecular biology scientists. And you can join in as initially with your BSc before you advance to other trainings in these companies. Still a continuation, you can look out for internships and traineeships, and most of them, they are usually maybe 1 year or 2 years. And the good thing is they are paid. So we have the Public Service Commission. I think they initiated in 2019 a program where they take fresh graduates, and then they are deployed to several organizations in the country. So I think at University of Eldoret, we've seen several of them who have been posted to different departments depending on their training. We have other organizations which sometimes also open up this, KEMRI, HAMPAT, CALDRO, CIPE, and we also have the UN. Sometimes they open up and you can search, and wherever you think you qualify, you are usually free to apply, and they also really prioritize fresh graduates who just graduated or within a year of graduation. Then there's the food, drug, and pharmaceutical companies, and this is huge in the country. And they also have quality control labs, and also particularly the pharmaceutical companies, they have sales representatives. They are called medreps. So these positions are very attractive, and they sometimes prioritize people in the sciences, especially biochemistry. You have an upper hand, and so there are several. So you can also look at them. Some you can get this position under contract, or it can be permanent jobs, depending on what they've offered. Then, of course, there is high school teaching. I know you know the storm that is in the country with Teacher Service Commission, but I think my colleagues who sit in different schools, boards and such can elaborate, particularly the private schools. I think they can still sometimes give science-trained graduates some positions to just teach while they still seek to get permanent teachers. So, and remember, there is the CBC program coming. There is the issue of the option of trying to remove the education science program, which is bachelor's, so that all who are aspiring to be teachers need to undertake a BSc first, and then after that they do postgraduate diploma training to become teachers. So we don't know the landscape later, but the point is all students now will be just BSc or BA trained in the universities, so that for those who are really keen in joining the teaching program, they have to undertake a postgraduate diploma. So it's still some opportunity, I can say. There's also science communication, which is coming up, and here you can be a journalist, you can join the publishing industry, you can be a science advocate, especially on aspects touching on biotechnology. And these are things you can look at, the positions you can look at. You have to be good in your writing, you have to be good in your oral skills so that you take up this position, and you have an upper hand if you have your bachelor's. And of course, there are some other non-science careers which just require graduates to join in who have a BSc or a first degree. So you can get into the banking, the finance, industry, security, armed forces, and many others. So provided you have your bachelor's, they can open up sometime these positions. And if you really want a job, you can take it up. And of course, there's self-employment for those who choose that. Maybe you have some capital, you have family business, you can join in. And I believe with your bachelor's, you have better skills to really run your own company or family under that. Whoever is not muted, please mute yourselves. The other option I've said is to continue your studies, and the options here are postgraduate diploma. A good example is to do a postgraduate diploma course in teaching or teacher education, and of course to pursue master's or PhD maybe in biochemistry, in molecular biology or related field. Some people even do an MBA. So it really depends on your aspirations. And this is a big group. Most students would also apply for scholarships so that they are able to pursue these aspirations of getting a master's or a PhD. So that's another career path immediately with your award of your degree. The other one, and which I encourage you, if you are not able to pursue the option of employment or education option, you can also volunteer in the meanwhile or undertake attachments which are not paid or placements as you build your experience or as you still try to get a job or to plan to get back to school. So the good thing is you will have this in your CV as part of your work experience. So don't just sit, even if it gets really hard to get a job, try to get into some companies, organization, ask if they can take you as a volunteer and try to build your work experience. Now, when you seek for these jobs or pursue these career options after your graduation, remember that most employers really look at almost these top 10 skills in you so that they are able to take you on board. The first one is analytical and research skills. And this one, it's really what you've gotten from your training in the university. So the others are really what we call the soft skills. And most of these you have to give evidence. And I'll give examples on how you can support that. Just a minute. Whoever is not muted, please mute. So as you can see, these skills are not really arranged in any specific rank, but you can see from number 2 to number 10, these are the soft skills: communication, your computer literacy, your flexibility, your initiative, your teamwork, and all this. So these are things which you can build over time as you do other jobs. But even as a fresh graduate, you should try and write your CV in a way that you really highlight how you've built up some of these skills, regardless of really that you're fresh. So I like to give examples, and probably I'll share these slides and you can see them better. For example, for those of you who undertook a research project, that's a good thing to highlight in your CV, because it really gives an evidence that you are able to undertake research, that you are able to critically think, that you are able to acquire some skills that are highlighted on the right. Work experience, you can use your industrial attachment as work experience because you are a fresh graduate, and try and really indicate the skills that you acquired during attachment, the teamwork and the cooperation you are able to exhibit in the different organizations that you are. So industrial attachment is a key benefit in your CV at this point. If you do any voluntary work, indicate that, and I've indicated the skills that really you can indicate as acquired. Even your extracurricular activities in the university, including those who became class representatives, even the presentations or the talks that you gave in the department or to your colleagues, that's a good thing to indicate. Membership or being an official in Biochemistry Association in the university, or even being a student leader in the student organization in the university. So those are things to indicate as part of evidencing really that you've been able to exhibit some skills or strong attributes in your path to getting your bachelor's degree. We cannot run away. We are in the digital era, you know that. And I love to say that some employers now are even seeking out potential employees from the online platforms that we have. And not only about that, when you apply for a job, sometimes they can go into these online platforms and check your profile. So you need to be careful, of course, on what you really post out there, but you need to also think on how constructive you can be and be able to take advantage of the social platforms that we have. Some of them are even professional in nature. So the ones that are highlighted on the right are the common ones which you can start off. We have a LinkedIn platform, and you can check on the details there. We have Twitter, we have blogging. You can write a blog and create your page, and even Facebook. So these social platforms, you can use them to still make or exhibit some professional profile. And the other good thing is that you can be able to network with your friends, with your colleagues, with even your lecturers and many other people, so that you're able to know if there are opportunities out there or if you are inquiring anything. And the other good thing is that most companies are having these pages, their pages or their walls of all these platforms. And they usually post adverts, they post trainings and many other things. So it's a good thing. You just need to really sieve and know how you can use them in a good way. As you go along in building your career, this online presence and building your professional online sites, it's always a continuous process, and there are many platforms coming out about. Maybe in 5 years, this won't be the critical ones. We might be shifting to something different. So I think we need to embrace technology and utilize whatever is coming as we move across and as we build our careers. This is just to highlight on areas that I will not be able to cover today, because if I do, it will really be a long talk, and we will get into a state of fatigue and not get much. So I'm just highlighting what you need to challenge yourself and try and see how best you approach them, depending on the career that you choose. And it's not always a one fit. It's always different for everyone. So you need to really know how to write your CV, how to tailor it to the employer, because different employers have attributes or would want to see your skills in different aspects from other employers. You need to know how to write a good cover letter, because it's the first thing they read, and they get an idea about what your aspirations and what your strengths are, how to prepare for an interview, and also how to search for jobs, how to search for scholarships now that we are in the digital era, and even the power of networking, so that you're able to utilize and try and get what you really want in the platforms that we have. For those who might pursue academic prospects, most universities, when you're applying for admission, will require a statement of motivation, a statement of purpose, and it's all different for different scholarships, for different universities. So you really need to know what they want, you read what they want and try and write very precisely your motivation and your purpose. Of course, you will need referees, and I think at this point, probably you know one or two. It's always easy to start off with academic referees, but as you apply for different jobs, sometimes you will need to bring in other people, maybe depending on the job you apply. If you are a youth leader, if you are a church youth leader, or if you went for attachment somewhere, you would want to show and have someone write a strong recommendation to highlight your skills that you acquired or your strengths. So forever referees, remember that you always have to make a request. You have to inform them as you move along, so that they know where you are and what you're really doing, so that when they write a recommendation letter, it really adds value to your application, whether it's for a job or for scholarships or for admission into postgraduate programs. I've said the other option is really to pursue further studies. Of course, the first one is master's, but I'll say some universities now abroad actually taking fresh graduates after bachelor's to PhD programs. So you don't need to do a master's program. Instead, you do a PhD program, but it's a bit lengthened. So you might do that for 5 or 6 or 7 years maximum. So the options that are there what are really indicated there. You can do a master's. I've said some people even do an MBA. You can do a PhD. After PhD, you can always do a postdoctoral training. There are other options also, mainly abroad. If you go abroad, you can actually train to be a medical doctor. Abroad, like in the US, for you to join medical school, you have to have a first degree, whether it's a BA or a BSc, with courses done mainly maths, chemistry, and biology, which you did in your BSc in biochemistry at University of Eldoret, so that you apply to medical school and you can be called a medical doctor. So it's a bit different from the program we have in Kenya. So having a BSc in biochemistry has not really blocked you. You can still be a medical doctor. You can still be a pharmacist if you opt for that option. You can even be a juris doctor or get a law degree. Mainly for those of you who might be interested in science, technology, patenting law, and even corporate law. So these are all open for anyone who has this BSc degree, like you people. When you apply to graduate school, I will say that the first requirement will usually be for you a BSc degree if you are interested in biochemistry or molecular biology or related field. So you will achieve that in 1 month when we have the graduation and you get your certificate, you will have your degrees. So you have the first requirement, minimum requirement. In Kenya, the other minimum requirement will always be that you are awarded with a lower second class division honors degree with relevant 2 years working experience. So what this means is that for those who will have a first class or a second upper division, second upper class honors division, you can immediately join a master's program in Kenya. For abroad, the other requirements besides the BSc degree, you might have to do TOEFL, and this is a test for English as a foreign language, and a graduate record exam, which tests your quantitative skills most of the time. And this is mainly a requirement if you are joining graduate school in the US. For UK and Australia, I think they have a different exam, which is still an English testing exam. And that's what you will need. So it's your BSc, and you just prepare to do this exams so that you can be able to apply and get into the graduate programs abroad. So I want to now highlight on really aspects that you need to look into when choosing a graduate school, whether it's local in Kenya or even abroad. I think the main point is that you really need to know, of course, the program that you want to get into. And in the next subsequent slides, I will highlight on some of the programs that can be of good options for those of you who want to pursue something in line with biochemistry or related field. So when you choose a graduate school, you need to know if there is outstanding faculty in that school. So you need to get an accredited, well-known university, like the ones in Kenya, where it's clear it's been accredited by Commission of University Education. And even abroad, you really need to be careful to get the right and accredited university so that you join a department with outstanding faculty. You need to know the breadth of courses that are being offered so that you know if that is really the program you want to get into. You have to know also the research experience or research breadth that is being offered within that department or within that program. You have to have in mind also the reputation of the program. So if there are any issues that have been raised before of a program in a university, you know that bad reputation can still haunt you even if you are not part of the people who are affected at that time. So you really have to be in a good program and a good university with a good reputation. Of course, there are the personal considerations, there is location, there is family, there is all that. And these are the things you need to put in mind because, you know, putting time to undertake a master's or a PhD is something really driving your career in a particular path, and you put a lot of time, a lot of resources. So you have to be at peace to really be happy to be in a particular program, in a particular department, in a particular university, so that you can be able to finish your program without other regrets or such. So in Kenya, the academic programs that I would advise that can really be very, very good for those of you who wants to get a master's or a PhD. We have, of course, at our university in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, we have a Master of Science in Biochemistry. It's a very general master's program, meaning that it covers a lot of courses cutting across the fields that have highlighted in biochemistry. So if you are not yet sure of really the area that you want to narrow into, you can start off with such a program, a master's in biochemistry, try and do research so that if you want to do a PhD, you would be very clear really where you want to follow and build your career on. Our neighbor Moi University at the School of Medicine has a medical MSc in medical biochemistry program. University of Nairobi has both master's and PhD programs in biochemistry, in biotechnology, or even in bioinformatics. And they have a center of biotechnology and bioinformatics within the Department of Biochemistry. So those are the options. Kenyatta University also have master's, PhD in biochemistry, biotechnology. They even have medical biochemistry, and they are very strong on research, mainly on plant research, because they have a plant transformation laboratory. So those of you who are leaning towards plant biochemistry, maybe Kenyatta University gives a better option. Jomo Kenyatta or JKUAT has several programs, both masters and PhD. We have biochemistry, they have molecular biology and bioinformatics. They have medical biotechnology. They have also agricultural and environmental biotechnology. Together with KEMRI, they also have molecular medicine. And together with PAUSTI, that's a Pan-African University of Science and Technology, they also offer MSc and PhD in molecular biology and biotechnology. So this is the landscape in Kenya for the programs that for the universities that are well known and the programs that are out there. which are very relevant for those who want to pursue masters or PhD. I hope I can be heard very well. Dr. Kipto, can you hear me well? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll proceed. In terms of financial aid, I know most of you are interested in that. There are actually opportunities out there. You just need to pursue, look for them, and of course apply. So in Kenya, I'll say we have mainly partial scholarships, which are offered sometime by HELP, and also loans. So that's one way of trying to get funds for your master's or PhD training. But the other bigger source of funding is the National Research Fund. And this one is really funding for research. It's not for paying your tuition fees. So you have to be enrolled into a program so that you're able to apply for a master's or a PhD a research funding. So they usually make out or have calls for applications almost every budget year. So you're able to get this. And I will say for students who've been at University of Eldoret, especially the ones I supervised, I had 5, and they all were funded under this National Research Fund when they applied for the funding for their research thesis work. So it's possible. We also have the Pan-African University. I think this is an African Union initiative, if I'm not wrong, and they are hosted at Jomo Kenyatta University, and they usually offer master's and PhD scholarships in molecular biology and biotechnology, and this is usually annually. So you can also check out when they make the calls. For international funding, I will dedicate some slides towards the end to give you the links that you can follow and check on them. There are many international scholarships, international fellowships, and even for the some countries like the US, they have what they call the research and even the teaching assistantships, which they usually offer that alongside tuition waivers. So it's like a full scholarship. It's a very common approach in the US. So besides the fellowships or the scholarships that you can directly apply, I would say that funding abroad is very, very rare because schooling abroad and doing a master's and doing a PhD is a bit expensive. So that's why most students out there are really funded through scholarships, fellowships, or these research and teaching assistantships. And it makes you, it's a good thing because you really focus, you have the financial assistance, both for your tuition, both for your research, so that you can focus as a student full-time and be able to accomplish your goals within the stipulated period. So I would encourage whoever is also interested in still studying abroad. It's not a bad idea, besides those who would want to remain within the country and pursue their studies. Now, when you're making application to graduate schools, whether locally or abroad, remember that most people or most of the faculty in the department don't really know you unless you're talking of our department where you've been for 4 years. So when you're making an application elsewhere, make sure you make it very impressive and highlight the skills and the background you have, your coursework and such experiences you will have, so that that committee at the department or that committee in that university, when they are looking at your application, and remember you are applying internationally, so there are many people from different countries. Some countries are more advanced in terms of infrastructure. Now they prepare their students. So you really need to compete with them. So you have to make a very good impression as much as possible, which of course should be very honest, and so that people can appreciate that. Of course, everyone knows the economies in the world are different. There are countries which are really developed. There are countries which are still developing, the middle class, the lower class, or low income countries. So all that, I'm sure they look at when they are looking at the pool of applications. So what you need to do is to really exhibit your best so that you can still get an opportunity. So when you look at the opportunities that are there for those who get a master's versus those who have a BSc, a basic degree, you will see that most of the MSc graduates kind of have better prospects in terms of salary compensation or advancement in their careers. And of course, they tend to be given more responsibilities in their workplace and some level of independence. So if you have to think through as you really go along in your life, sometime you could opt to get a master's so that you get these better prospects than just having your BSc and remaining in the job group that you are in, or the doing responsibilities or duties that are just really for a BSc graduate over a long time. So sometimes you need to challenge yourself and get a master's. Of course, it will be even much better if you get a PhD. So it's something that you can think about. Also for research, if you really do want to focus on research and even university teaching, the minimum requirement would be you have a master's. And of course, it's better if you have a PhD so that you do substantial research and you do substantial university teaching. If you want to join research institutions, perhaps you can pursue a PhD that doesn't have a lot of coursework. It's okay because your focus is really on research. However, if you want to get an opportunity in the university where there is a lot of teaching and where there is also a lot of research, you need to do a graduate, or you have to join a graduate school to do master's or PhD that has some coursework. Because when you want to join into these vacancies in the university, some of the minimum requirements could be that you need to exhibit some level of coursework at your graduate level together with your research. So it's things you need to think about when enrolling into the master's or PhD programs, because I've said many universities have those flexibilities. You can do a master's without a coursework. You can do a master's with both coursework and research, a PhD with no coursework, only research, or combined. So it's things you need to consider when applying because of what you are aspiring to get into after you accomplish your training. So for PhD graduates, again, it's just to highlight on the career options. They'll have additional career options compared to people who remain with a BSc or even with a master's degree. So if you really want to advance to become a professor in a college or a university, most often they will require that you have a PhD. For those who would want to be program directors at government agencies where they engage in research or even high-level administration, most often the minimum again is a PhD. For research directors, so senior executives at biotechnology firms and in the industry, again, sometimes the minimum requirement is a PhD degree. If you have to be an editor of scientific journal, if you have to be a board member or an advisory board member in private and public sector, and even consultancy firms, most often the minimum is a PhD degree. So it's things you need to think about so that when you plan for your career in, let's say, 10 years, you need to really know that you're building it in the right path. Perhaps you need a master's, perhaps you need a PhD, depending on the aspirations that you have. Of course, there are some non-traditional careers that are out there, and some of them again favors those who have a master's, those who have a PhD. But of course, even with your BSc, sometime you can get into this. So opportunities in management, most likely you can have your BSc in biochemistry, do a MBA, or if you have a PhD, you can easily get into these management positions. Science policy, you can be a policy advisor in the government. So you are employed in the ministries that we have in the country. You can join the science communication, which I highlighted, and depending on the position advertised, sometimes they would require a PhD holder or a master's holder or a BSc holder, so that you can do writing, do publishing, do journalism or advocacy. And I've indicated some of the few international, some local companies or organizations that really play a big role in biotechnology advocacy. Whoever is not muted, please mute. Okay. So we have also technology transfer with your science background, and if you advance, you can get into this so that you process a lot of technology transfer. So people who maybe join institutes like the Kenya Industrial, I think it's called KIPI, Kenya Intellectual Property Institute in the country, so that you become a scientist and be able to handle a number of patents and innovations that are coming across. You can be a medical illustrator, you can be an entrepreneur, you can join the security industry based on your scientific background, because sometimes they need people with a scientific background to do forensics and many other things, so become a trainer. You've even seen that in the country we are having the university, which will be hosted, I think it's being hosted by the Kenya Armed Forces or so. So you see, you join, it's a security or intelligence industry, but you really join with your science so that you take up opportunities that require some professionalism in those organizations. So all this might not be the traditional science careers, but with your scientific background, you can easily get them just because of that. So this is just to highlight the employment sectors for masters and PhD graduates. I've highlighted the employment options for BSc graduates like you, but this is important because I know there are some of you who are thinking of doing a master's, a PhD, and these are the sectors that you could be looking up to when you complete that. It's not very far. If you start a master's in 2 years, you'll be done, or a PhD in 5 years, you'll be done, and you'll be looking for this employment. So again, the education sector is a big employer for MSc and PhD graduates, colleges, universities. They require professors, lecturers, senior technical staff, and or research assistants, so research associates. So this will still remain very relevant, and with the MSc and PhD, you can get into these positions. Then other governmental and even non-governmental sectors, some I've mentioned, but what I want to highlight is that if you have an MSc or a PhD, you can easily get into this at a different or a higher level. So research and development, you can look at CalDRO, the Biosciences Hub at ILRI, Cambry Wellcome Trust, CIPE, IPR, RAMPA, in Eldoret. And so with this training, you can easily get into these training or research institutions. If you want to be an administrator at government agencies dealing with safety assessment of drugs, food, new devices, and many others, with the MSc, PhD, you can get in there into the National Biosafety Authority, KEBS, KEFIS. I would even say that the director, the chief executive director of NBA was my former lecturer who was teaching biochemistry, a professor at University of Nairobi. So you can see those are opportunities that can come if you have a PhD. You can be an administrator in research funding agencies like NRF, National Research Fund, and it's closely associated parastatal, NACOSTI. And again, I say you will have an upper hand with a MSc or a PhD degree. You can also look at the industry, which is a bigger employer, and mainly the biotech industry is really coming up, but there are also several industries. And as you know, Kenya is really developing. I believe we will be in a different place in 5 or in 10 years. So there are industries that touches on aspects of agricultural feedstock and chemicals production, food industry, drug industry, pharmaceutical industry, cosmetic industry, industries producing several medical devices and equipment. And so I'm saying with those industries, if you have an MSc and a PhD, you can be able to get some of the senior positions, either as a researcher or an analyst in those companies. We have also a number of laboratories which undertake, or organizations that undertake research. Some undertake just testing, some are medical laboratories. So with your MS and PhD, especially in biochemistry or molecular biology, you can get into them, and you can see the list there. These are international organizations which are mainly found in Kenya, mainly Nairobi. So with this, they really require people who have skills, acquired skills in research. So with a master's and a PhD, you would have acquired those skills and you can get into them. So you can look upon all this. I think the first one there, it's a long organization dealing with the research on maize and wheat. It's an international farm. We have Africa, I think, agricultural organization. There's a center of tropical agriculture. There's International Potato Center. There's Monsanto. There's the Biosciences hub at ILRI. They do a lot of research, and I've said most of these are international, but they take locals also. So you need to just get a master's and a PhD and have a good background or experience in research where you've published extensively and you have acquired a number of laboratory skills. So I think I've highlighted all the options and the career options that you have. I've said you can go into direct employment, or you can further your studies and explore the career options that I've highlighted. At this point, I just want to give a brief on my path so that you can have an idea on how people can have different paths and just have an idea. My path is much of academic, but it's good to share. I know I've been your lecturer. I have not had time to really give a personal background a bit, but I'll try today. And I hope it's just to really inspire you. It's nothing much. So I'll say I also received a BSc in biochemistry degree, just like what you're about to get. But at our time at University of Nairobi, the program was BSc in biochemistry and chemistry. So I did a lot of some chemistry units and a lot of biochemistry. I was awarded BSc degree in 2005 in University of Nairobi, and I actually got a first-class honors. And immediately I applied for jobs. I was able to get the first one, which was actually a casual job. We were being paid 340 per day, Monday to Saturday. And I worked at a laboratory, it's called Lab and Allied. I believe some of you might be knowing that pharmaceutical company in Nairobi. So I worked there for almost 3 months after my graduation. And I got some other offers. And I was also at the same time exploring, furthering my studies abroad. So I didn't check up some of the offers. I was offered to be a medical rep in a Philips Pharmaceuticals, I think. And then I was offered, it was called for an interview to be an intern in Cambridge, but I didn't go because I already was clear that I was traveling abroad sooner. So how did I get to University of Hawaii at Manoa, as you're seeing there, for my master's and also my PhD studies in molecular bioscience and bioengineering? I'll say it's the power of networking. I had a friend in my high school who had some years earlier, flown to the US on an athletic scholarship. So I contacted her around 2005 and asked her if she can advise on how someone can really get a scholarship and go to the US. So luckily, she had a friend who was at University of Hawaii, actually undertaking a PhD in molecular bioscience. And luckily, the friend told her that there was an opportunity, an advert in the department for a graduate, a research assistant to come on board as a student. And they actually needed a biochemist. So I will say it was just luck, but I was just ready because, of course, I had really had good grades. I had a first class, and I was linked to this professor, supervisor who became my professor. Because in the US, the way it works is you have to identify a supervisor who can fund you, pay you a stipend through the grants they have. And then at the same time, you apply to a program. So you are a student, and at the same time, you're undertaking a research assistantship under the guidance of a supervisor. So that's how you get admission in the US, and it becomes a full scholarship because the university waives your tuition. You don't pay a cent if you have research assistantship. So I say it was luck. I applied. I had to share my CV, my academic credentials. I had to write a cover letter and my aspirations. And he looked at that, and it was impressive. And as I said, for US, you have to do TOEFL and GRE. And I had actually 2 months to do that, TOEFL and GRE, because the deadline of application was April. Most US universities, for you to get into the intake in August or September, you have to have applied and submitted everything by April, most of the universities. So I had 2 months, and I was able to do my TOEFL. I was able to do my GRE, and I still remember a very scary encounter I had. I went and paid and registered for TOEFL and GRE, and within 3 weeks, it's usually scheduled within 3 weeks, and I had not even prepared. I didn't even know really what it is or what it entails. And those days we were paying, it was a lot of money, 30,000 or something like that. So I had to do that because the deadline was approaching. So I met a friend just after registering on that day, and we met. She was also a graduate from UOM, and we exchanged a few experiences and what we were up to. And I shared with her that I was interested in going to the US, and that actually I was from registering for my TOEFL and GRE. And she told me that I'm crazy because for her, she was again reading again, and she had registered for the second time to do GRE because she did not do well the first time. And it's really hard to get to the US if you don't have good GRE scores. So I really panicked. I had 3 weeks. I didn't have any other time. I had paid, but the good thing, she was kind. She shared with me the materials and the books that I had to buy, the CDs that I had to get and study within 3 weeks so that I could do GRE and TOEFL. So I'll say I really worked hard. I really sat for 3 weeks and did that because of that scare. And ultimately, I really got very good, impressive scores in GRE. And I'll say within 2 weeks, when the scores were submitted to the university, the faculty in the department there were really impressed, and I was given admission immediately. And I was able to meet the deadline. I think within a week, the deadline was really closing off. So that's how I got to University of Hawaii for my master's and PhD. I believe you are seeing that it requires a lot of effort, networking, and you really have to have some stamina to try out and really work hard in that path. So I proceeded, I got my master's in 2007. I applied into the same program for a PhD. And the picture you're seeing there is just on my graduation in 2010 of December. And I was awarded a PhD in molecular bioscience and bioengineering. My PhD actually, I really had to apply and get a fellowship because my supervisor had run out of grant money to support me. So I still worked with him, but he guided me. I applied for an American Heart Association fellowship. The first time I applied, it was rejected, but they gave us a second opportunity. Within, I think, 4 months, I applied, and that's how I was funded through a full fellowship in my PhD. So, and that's how I was able to accomplish that. So I came back to Kenya, I think for the first 2011 and part of 2012, I was a part-time lecturer in the department at University of Eldoret, Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, which you undertook your program. And after that, I was able to get a full-time position in University of Kabianga. One thing that I'll have to mention is that for my interview at University of Kabianga, I was the only person there who was attending the interview. So I was the only one and I was taken. So I hope you are seeing that there are opportunities. There are still few people with masters or with PhD in the area of molecular biology or biochemistry. I worked there for 2.5 years and I joined now our department at University of Eldoret. And again, I was alone in the interview. I didn't have a competitor and I was taken in. So, and that's how I've been able to be at UOE and to interact with you people. And I don't know how much I need to share, but I think that's what I'll share for today. And I'll just say that really, from my experience, I'll say that you need to have aspirations. You need to try and achieve them, and don't give up. Just keep on trying because it's always good to try. Even if you don't get, you will tell yourself that you really tried. So try to get some aspirations and work towards it and try. And life is dynamic. You just keep on doing that as much as you live in this world. So I hope I've passed a message and I hope it inspires you. Now, the next slides, and I'll not go through, it's really for you to visit the websites that I've shared. this is just highlighting on how you can get information on the various scholarships that we have. In Kenya, I've said that you can get research scholarships if you've enrolled into a PhD or a master's program through the National Research Fund scholarships or really research awards that are given annually. And I've indicated the website there. You can also be enrolled into a master's or a PhD program. And if your principal investigator or your supervisor has other grants, research grants, it could be national or international, sometimes they can also support you, whether it's a stipend or to give you research support. The Ministry of Education is actually a very resourceful website. I would encourage you to keep on visiting, because they always get these calls from various governments from the world on local or on international scholarships. And the good thing is they are genuine links or genuine calls. So it's a good thing you keep on visiting the Ministry of Education website and check on the scholarships that have been placed there so that you can apply. And many of our students have actually been awarded some of these international scholarships through the Ministry of Education. NACOSTI is also another website. It's a government institution. Visit their website. As indicated, they sometimes also list some number of fellowships that are being offered. And sometimes it's not from Kenya alone. It could be from Africa or even from other countries in the world. For those who would want to get into Britain or the UK, you could explore the Rhodes Trust scholarships, and I've indicated the website. It's an active link. You can just click and get into that. And actually, we have an alumni from University of Eldoret from our department who graduated from a BSc in biochemistry program, just like you, Dr. Anne McKenna. She got this Rhodes Trust scholarship, and she was able to undertake a PhD studies in Oxford. And right now, she's a co-director of an initiative within the university called Oxford African Initiative, and she's doing well. So we are proud of her. I think she had a first-class honors. There's also the Gates Cambridge scholarships. You can check on that. And all this, the two are mainly international, so it can take up international students. Still on international scholarships, we have the Fulbright, which is being spearheaded by the United States for research, for study, BSc, MSc, and even PhD. And you can check on that, or you check through the United States Embassy here in Nairobi. We have also the Rotary organization offering graduate study abroad programs. We have also a big one offered in Germany, DAD for research, internship, or study. And sometimes it can be sandwich. You can be a student in Kenya, get up support for research, or you travel to Germany for some research and come back to the country and proceed with your studies. So I think it's called DAD or something. So that's a big scholarship offering agency in Germany. Then there are others in Belgium. Belgium has two programs, as indicated. They're also very good, and they support a lot of science-based scholarships or programs. You can check that link for Canada. For Hungary, we have also what we call the Stipendium Hungaricum Scholarship. And I think, you know, I think Geoffrey Maloba probably taught you. I think he's now pursuing his PhD in Hungary, and he also pursued his master's in Hungary through such scholarship. So it's something you can look at. It's usually advertised annually through the Ministry of Education, our Ministry of Education, and you can check on that. And you can check also on this database for various scholarships and fellowships. They have a lot of them. So you could just be visiting and checking on that. Then there are internships. We don't have a lot in Kenya, but I've said there are some organizations which can open up internships, and you can apply if you qualify. But we have a program by the Kenya government under the Public Service Commission. I think it started in 2019. I don't know if they've made another call, but check on that. They offer 1-year internship. So you are taken in through the Public Service Commission, and the good thing is it's paid, and then you are deployed to various organizations in the country. International, you can also check on United Nations internships. Sometimes it's open for the UN organization in Kenya. Sometimes it's international. Sometimes some of these internships are remote, so you work at home. You don't really have to be at the organization physically. So you can work virtually, you're given assignments and you do that. Some of them are paid. If it's not paid, what I said is that it's part of volunteering so that you build your experience and showcase that so that you are able to get into other jobs. Almost winding. This is my second last slide. And what I want to say is that really, when you look at the role of biochemistry, the role of molecular biology, and the role of what we call, the bigger role of what we call STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's really persisting in the society. And its relevance is there, it's persisting, and it will still be very relevant even in the years to come. So for you having chosen to do a BSc in biochemistry, you're under the STEM field, and I think you have better prospects, especially when you look at Kenya being a developing country and having its vision. It has the Kenya Vision 2030, which has its pillars. It has 3 pillars and several foundations, I think 6. And one of them is actually science, technology, and innovation. So we have a bright future in the country because the country's vision is enshrined in that, so that we expand the scientific industry, we expand our universities, we expand the infrastructure, as even evidenced by the National Research Fund of Kenya, which called for support of infrastructural research capacity building in our universities and research institutions in 2016, 2017 budget year, and we hope they'll make such calls so that we improve the research capacity in the universities and our research institutions. So your BSc in biochemistry will still remain relevant. In fact, careers in STEM are projected to have the greatest global potential for job growth in the future. Issues of biotech, energy, healthcare, diagnostics, and all that. It has really a brighter future for expansion and taking up graduates like you, fresh graduates who are still young like you. And even if you pursue your master's and PhD, then that's the future we are talking about. Now, the first bullet there, I would wish to see if this can open up. We have several biochemists and even molecular biology, the Nobel Prize in chemistry or even Nobel Prize in physiology and medicine. And so it's just to showcase that your biochemistry and molecular biology is very, very relevant, and opportunities are still there in the society because you really, it's a course that prepares people to be researchers, to be scientists, whether to analyze several samples or to do research or to teach. It's an area that is a list so that you see that. So it's an area. Let me see if I can share that. I hope you can see that list. This is an American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. And this is a society that has several members, but I wanted to highlight the several Nobel Prize winners who are molecular biologists and or biochemists. As late as 2020, the award actually went to 2 scientists who are biochemists in the US. And you can see the list there, 2015, 2013, and the most impressive is 2009 to 1922. So it's not a joke. You can see that we are very relevant. That's why some of these scientists are even being recognized. And it's a very impressive thing to know. So I think I'll say thank you for listening, and I hope I've shared some guide for you. And again, congratulations for making it to the graduation list of this year. I wanted to just share my contacts so that you can look at that. For those who would want to contact me for further guidance or for recommendation letters, of course, I need to know you. I have known most of you because of the interactions we've had at the department. And so that's the end. I will share these slides to any one of you who is interested, and maybe through your class rep, Benson. I will, if I get to know that, I'll be able to share as usual. And then you get the same slides and get the same links that I've shared for those who are interested in looking up on the different websites that I've shared. At this point, I want to really also express my acknowledgement and thanks to Mr. Joshua Kemei for being the coordinator of this program over the years and really driving this program in the right direction, giving you the support and even support to the staff in the department. And I think he's really done a very impressive coordination. And I think it's something that I'm really impressed. And we say thank you to Mr. Joshua Kemei. Of course, we have other members of staff, particularly those who are involved in teaching courses in this program, Dr. Kipto, Ms. Kosgei, Dr. Bisem, Ms. Songok, and even our part-time lecturers, Mr. Maloba, Dr. I believe those were the part-time lecturers. I think we worked together as a team to see that you are able to graduate and to drive this program at University of Eldoret. And lastly, of course, I'm really happy to see that there are young people coming on board, graduate assistants. We have 4 in the department, and all of them were students at our department and are taking this BSc in biochemistry. And it's a good thing because that's the start of transition. We need young people because all of us are not really, as each year comes, we get older. So we are also, we appreciate that they are coming on board and to be mentored so that we always transition the program in the right direction. So you people, I know most of you are young. The future is really yours, so take it up. There are people retiring, there are people taking up other positions elsewhere, and there'll always be gaps in the industry, in universities, in different employment sectors. So the future is really for you, the fresh graduates, pursue so that you take up those positions as other people also move across. So at this point, I think I will stop there. Thank you. I will leave the program to be driven by Mr. Kemei. I think there are my colleagues who are also on board. Maybe they want to say one or two or three before we open up for a question and answer session. So thank you very much. Mr. Kemei, if you are there, please guide us on the next program. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Tuei for this wonderful presentation. I'm sure all of us have actually gained a lot, and